ZB with Chris live and local, hopefully, on the Facebook page. It's time now for our very first business update of the year. Leanne Watson is still probably in Wanaka, in a bathing suit and on the surfboard. There's no surfing in Wanaka, is there, Joris?
I doubt it.
Anyway, joining us this morning from the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce business advisor, Joris de Vocht. Good morning and nice to meet you.
You too. Thanks, Chris.
What an interesting job you have, almost trying to provide advice to start-up companies. Is that a fair comment?
That's right. Yeah, the large majority are startups, but there's some established businesses we're working with. But ultimately, it's anybody that's in that innovation space that I'm really working with. So it's quite exciting stuff.
What a cool job. And you're seeing plenty of companies, up-and-coming companies, you think?
Quite surprisingly, yeah. We're actually seeing a lot more innovation than we expected. Usually during a crisis or a downturn, you'd think that business would sort of put innovation on hold and sort of as a bit of a luxury, but actually we're seeing far more innovation than we expected. In just the last sort of 6 months since lockdown, we've done more than we would typically do in a year. So more than double sort of innovation, which is
Do you think that's because people are using their brains more because they're having to think outside the square of normal life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think customer preferences and customer behaviours changed. So now people are having to think a bit differently of how they can still access those customers and how they can still work with the people that they worked with before. Yeah.
It's good to hear that you're quite busy then in your line of work. Talk to me about the Canterbury Innovation Ecosystem. You're busy right across the board, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, talking to all the others in the support network, that everyone else is seeing that as well, that everyone else is pretty busy, which is quite surprising. Callaghan Innovation, the government innovation arm, they're seeing more than double what they'd usually see at this time of year. So yeah, it's quite incredible.
Any type of business that's innovating perhaps more than others?
We're seeing pretty cool stuff across all industries. I mean, that's what's really cool about the role. But ultimately, it's in the digital space that we're really seeing some pretty cool stuff. You would have noticed that I'm sure you're using Zoom a lot more. There's a bit more virtual reality happening. It's those sort of things that can connect people together. That's really booming quite a lot. So we're seeing a lot in that sort of space. Yeah,
I'm glad you pointed that out. I've almost forgot about Zoom for a little while. I haven't used it for a while until the next manager meeting probably. Interesting you say that because I think what Zoom has done is made it more convenient for so many businesses around the world. Perhaps long gone are the days where you need to be in a specific location at a specific time. And even from a media point of view now, I notice some of the big cable news networks are just relying more and more on talking to somebody at their home as opposed to having to bring them into the studio. So there's probably some amazing savings going on in many different sectors, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's just put us as a huge shift forward. A really interesting report that McKinsey put out is that we've leapt forward sort of 7 years where we would have been otherwise with our digital technology in business, which is fantastic. So it's sort of pulled us forward into the future much faster than we would have gone.
Do you think that's awful where we always use unprecedented times in terms of businesses pivoting or developing? Do you reckon we haven't seen the likes of these businesses, say, since the GFS?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen anything this big, this sort of leap forward. But like you say, since the global financial crisis, there were a bunch of new technologies that came out of that, particularly the sharing economy, where it sort of helped consumers to save money. So things like Uber, Airbnb, where people could save money and then still grow a business. So those huge startups actually came out of the global financial crisis. And
is it interesting they're probably the same startups now that are probably suffering a little bit more?
Yep, because the younger sort of agile things are sort of coming through. Absolutely.
Tell me about if there's businesses or people that have got bright ideas listening or watching this morning. There is still sort of funding available during this crisis, and this is with the government. They've still got support for R&D, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Callaghan Innovation has continued to support R&D, and like I said, they're seeing more than ever. They even came out with a interest-free loan scheme last year to support businesses to continue doing that R&D so that it wouldn't just seem like a luxury, but they could keep it going. Another great initiative run by MSD and actually Christchurch NZ at the moment is the Start Me Up program for people that have lost their jobs through the COVID crisis. Yeah. So they can now access that.
I must put those details on my Facebook page as well because that looks really good. I thought maybe I should apply, but make something up. Really nice to meet you. Yeah. Some really good information there. And of course, you are from the Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce. So if people have been considering perhaps joining, they can just go to your website and find out more details. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks,
all the
Chris.
best. It's NewstalkZB.
Cheers.
Euroblast for sandblasting and galvanising.